This is Shorthammer. It is the 24th of July, 2022, and this is Trading Zones. Hopefully, everyone had an exciting week. Definitely had some movement. I think the day after movements for Netflix and Tesla were less than ideal. But neither here nor there. It was really cool how the market moved this week. So let's take a peek at the RTY, see what's going on. Um, so what we were discussing before, right, was that could we get through the 1744 by the 1790s area? We did, right? We got there. Oh, excuse me. We got there. And let me make sure this is broad enough for you to see these candles, right? Because you got to see the candles. And we got through, we back tested here, right? This is on the 20th of July. And we pushed up the next day, made a higher high. And if you're looking at this, right? So when you see this area here that we struggled to get through, the 1790s, when we finally do get through, you expect us to rise up through here into the 1860s, if not higher, like 1862, then potentially up here into the 1880s, right? But the thing that we didn't plan for was that dip that we saw on Friday, which kind of really put the kibosh on this breakout. But what I do like is we back tested the top of that 1799 area, the top of that zone, right? And so where we go from here, there is a potential that the buyers could step back in and they could sort of push us back through this top. So whether you're bearish or you're bullish, right now the main thing you should be is cautious and still be kind of there are people that always want to try to get the perfect entry before either a bull run or a bear run begins, right? And there's no such thing, right? People were called screaming bear market, and they're saying this is a bear market rally, which can be 5-10%. Who knows how far a bear market rally can go before we make new lows? You never know, right? So now that we're up here, people are saying we're going to 6,000, these astronomical numbers for the different futures, right? So what I would say is just be careful. There's no reason to try to chase. If this is truly a pullback and we're about to exit what everyone was considering a bear market, and the market's about to run like a raging bull the rest of the year, you'll get a chance to get in. You don't need the perfect entry. You just need to be right about the trend, right? And so wait and see. If it's going to go, it's going to go. If it's not going to go, we're going to sell off a little bit more. And so there are two ways that this can go. We can hold above these 1790s, buy or step in. And over the next few days, we get a breakout and we squeeze above the 1860s and higher. That's one way. The other way, market opens. Well, I guess it'll be Sunday, but for all intents and purposes, intraday market opens on Monday. Oh, excuse me. And we sell, right? And what we don't want to do is be right back in these 1790s and drifting down to these 1740s in the RTY. Remember, this is small caps, primarily small caps and financials, right? So that's what you should be looking at as you're looking at the challenges here, right? A lot of things move together. So for me, with that pullback, I don't think the bulls are scared yet, right? Even though that was a strong pullback, I don't believe the bulls are scared yet. And I don't believe the bears are sort of back all in, 10 toes into this thing, thinking it's going down. So just be careful. Wait to see which way the market goes, which way the market moves. We have some big earnings coming up next week. Visa, I believe, is one of them. There are a few other ones that are pretty big. So sort of see what that's telling you, right? All these earnings, these the guidance, what these companies, the CEOs are saying, what the consumers are saying, whether they're purchasing or they're not purchasing, all these things, all this data, the jobs reports, what's going on with new mortgages, those numbers being down, all these things, inflation rate, all these things are sort of the pieces to a story, right? And you have to put it together based on your trading style and your risk profile. You have to put it all together to be able to figure out what your thesis is for the market. And that's it. Doesn't matter if you're bearish, you're bullish, if you're a premium selling, want the market to go sideways, it doesn't matter. What matters is look at all the information provided, put together a thesis, and execute. Either it works or it doesn't. You have your risk built in of the drawdown you're willing to take. You have your profit target. You have all those things. Unless you receive new data, the thesis remains the same, right? And that new data could be chart data or it could be fundamental data. But unless you receive technical or fundamental new data, hey, stick with your thesis, stick with your plan. A little bit too verbose. My apologies, but you know, it bees like that sometimes, right? So this is the MES, and we see this chart looks slightly different, right? Whereas it looked as if the RTY had engulfed the previous day's green candle, right? Which it did, right? This is on the daily chart, by the way. Looking at the MES, we didn't quite get a full retrace of the previous day's move. So that just shows you how each instrument reacts differently, even though whatever caused the market to pull back, right? In different theories, but each 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 instrument reacts differently based on the stocks that sort of make up that instrument, right? And so if we're looking at the MES through the 3900s, this is beautiful, right? And so if we look back, go back to the 10th of June, and when we sold, look what we sold down through here, through the 3900s, gap down again. Look at this, 3800s, and we're going. So we bought back up, and look at this test into the 3940s, sell. Back up here, 3919, sell, right? And back up here again. Now we're testing the initial sell area, right? And so what you really want to see is a break back into the 4000s. If you remember those, it's been a while. That's what you want to see. You want us to get back into those 4000s and be strong, right? You want to see us buying up into those areas, and you want to see us bullish into the 4000s. This area you see here is I think it's is it the 4070s? Yeah, 4075 by 4150s. That's the area we kind of have to get back into. It did provide a little bit of turbulence for us in the past. Even where we are right now is slightly a turbulent area, but we're buying up through it. We get back to this area, it's going to be interesting to see if end of June, if we're strong enough to get through there, and sort of what the buyers are saying. So if I'm watching this head into next week to the downside, watch 39.59. Below that, watch the 39.30s, 39.19s, then the 38.80s. And if we get back down in that area, if I was a bull, I'd be slightly worried. Just slightly, right? Just slightly. This almost looks like a W pattern, right? But if I was a bull, I'd be slightly worried if that happened. If I'm a bear, if we make a higher high above into the back into the 4000s and we push through the 4020s, I'd be like, this is interesting, right? So people saying bear market rally. Like, well, how far will that go? Well, you got to watch your levels, right? And so there has to be different levels where you look to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna tap out here, and if it gets back below this, and we see a little bit more red in the market, I'll get back in. And if you're a bull, you see the bears start to walk away from the table. That's when you may decide, hey, I want to go all in, and not all in as in all in. I'm just using a figurative. So watch these levels and see what happens heading into next week. Let's jet over to the MNNQ. So this looks a little bit this over here. Yes, I'm a line drawer. Helps me a lot, to be honest. I love drawing my lines and my levels. Okay. So before what we were discussing was that we had a weird setup, right? Where we had slightly higher lows and almost like a double top and a lower high here. But being that this lower low swing low or this swing low didn't make a lower low wave compared to the wave from the 30th of June, 1st of July, 5th of July. We didn't see a lower low swing here. So then I'm looking at this swing. So I'm like, okay, now what they have to do, if you're looking at this perfect setup, is make a higher high, which we did do, right? So even though this was a lower low, we bounced, boom, made a higher high after this, and we were off to the races. We also didn't see any closes below this slight uptrend line here that we have, right? And if we remember, the area that we wanted to watch was the 12,500 by 12,600. Don't know why the box isn't there, but yeah, I'll make sure to add that back in. 12,500 by 12,600 is the area to watch. Why? Let's go back to this area, right? We go all the way back to May. So when we dip below that, every back test anywhere into the 12,500s was met with what? On here, we saw it here on the 10th of May, 11th of May, right? Then again, didn't quite make it there on the 13th, but then on the 17th of May, on the 18th of May, right? Rejected. Then we finally bought above or seemingly above that area, and every back test into those 12,500s into, it's like, hey, buyers are stepping in, giving us a little bit of push till we roll through that area. And we gapped down. That was on the 9th and the 10th of June. And we finally, sort of every approach near that, we're selling. We couldn't get above the 12,300 level for quite some time, right? Look at that. Just can't get above it. We finally got above it. We saw a squeeze backward into the 12,500 by 12,600 area, and then we rejected. So headed into next week, what I would like to see, if I'm bullish, I want us to gap up and get through the 12,600s totally and clear that area, just clean, right? If I'm bearish, I want us to stay below the 12,500s as much as possible, and I want negative drift back to the 12,300s. And I'll be looking at how we sort of any approach into the 12,300s, or anywhere near in that area. We were rejecting. Even the 12,200 couldn't get through the 12,200s to even get to the 12,300. So a back test of that area, I'd look to see if buyers are now there, if that happens. So if we drop 200 points, I'd look and see if buyers are there, right? If we happen to gap up, I would not necessarily be looking for sellers. So that's the difference. So we'll see what happens at these levels. But the next line down is 12,300. Above that, we have 12,509, 12,590s, 12,650s, then the 12,720s, right? That's why we watch on the M&NQ. Let's keep it pushing. Boom. Looking at Amazon. Oh, perfect. So with earnings right around the corner, Amazon is a funny stock, right? Amazon does a great job of guiding down, as far as expectations, of lowering expectations, making expectations the lowest of lows, making it easy for them to just step over it. So if the bar for certain companies is high, the bar for Amazon is pretty low. And so the chances of them beating earnings, I think, are higher because they make like unexpectedly low expectations. It's very intelligent of them. So that is the 28th of July, which I believe is Thursday. So we'll see what happens. But we do have a line here, roughly about that 124 area. Look, we had this pop purple, this pivot here. We rejected. And this here's the strong one too. So this is like sort of an interesting pivot box to be in. We'll see if we can gap above that, or if we sell back down. If we sell back down, if you just look at this, go all the way over here, right to the 29th of April, right? So when we sold, Drop down around the 102 area, kind of being going with there, then pull back up about the 123-ish area, right? So it's this 124-ish line, right? Say 124. Back down, 102-ish area, down through the 106s, then back up to the 124s. So if you wanted to look at this area, 124 to 106-ish, as almost like a zone or a channel that we're in, and that the buyers would need to really put some elbow grease behind this to really get us above this area, above the 124s, 125s, to be able to get us back up here, close this gap into the 136 area. So we'll see about that, but that's something to keep an eye on next week as we're headed into earnings. A lot of tech stocks and a lot of stocks overall tend to run into earnings. We'll see if Amazon does that this time. There's a lot of news, a lot of things that are going on in the world that are negatively impacting these stocks, right? Along with some people screaming recession, recession, recession at the top of their lungs. Just the news that's swirling around the market isn't necessarily the most positive news out there. So just be careful on these setups, right? Because no matter how strong your technical setup, you got to have people that believe it also, that cause that wave to happen. And right now, there are quite a few people that are skittish. With what just happened, I believe in Europe with them raising interest rates. I think they just raised interest rates. And they said there was just a ton of capital just came out of that market, right? So all these markets are interconnected. You sort of got to see it like it's global economy. So you got to keep an eye on what's going on in Europe and some of their challenges. And even though some people are saying that inflation has peaked in the US, that's not the case for Europe, right? And it's just something to really keep an eye on as we head into the fall. And there's sort of news that was floating, I think a week or two ago, about grain shortages and food shortages and challenges around the world, and how Europe could be pressured by mass migration from some of those countries of people getting into Europe, trying to find food, right? So it's just a lot of interesting things where there could be a lot of pressure put on the European economy, just based on what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, what's going on with the food crises around the world. It could be a lot of pressure that's put on Europe right now, which would in turn put pressure on the U.S. market. So I think it's just a lot of different things and a lot of different theories out there. But let's just stick to these technicals and watch these levels. But just be careful. Can the market just break out and rip like some people are thinking? It's possible, right? Anything is possible. But what you want to do is you want to make sure that you protect yourself against hoping that something does something, rather than having an actual thesis and a plan for something to make a specific move based on some data that you have. So here, we tapped this pop blue. We did reject, but we are still on an uptrend here, right? And if you're looking at this pattern, we finally matriculated back to the top area, right? So we had this gap down on the 20th of April, and we kind of need to regain that. Netflix, if I remember correctly, they're doing a lot more around selling ads and advertising in some of the movies and series that they're putting out. So they're trying to sort of get more capital inflow. Don't know when that. So I don't know if that's going to be something that affects them this upcoming quarter. And that's something they're going to guide up into, as far as getting more cash in. So we have to see. But Netflix is one of those companies, I think, that they do great movies, right? But don't know if they're profitable. And that's always the question for a company. So keep an eye. They just had earnings, nice little push here, even though the earnings were kind of mixed. Keep an eye to see if we go back above the 229, 230-ish area, and if there's potential we can get a squeeze up into these 260s and maybe higher, right? That would be interesting. The next stop, of course, would be the 243, 244-ish area, this little pivot box here. So that's if we bid. If we happen to go down, watch 204, then watch the 170s. So that's something to watch out for on Netflix. Okay, NVDA. So this box was something that we took a trade on this. I think we talked about this. This is a setup we faded, right? So what are you watching now? We're inside the box. At the top, what do? Either you sell premium, could be verticals, whatever you want to sell, above this area, better yet above this area. Look at this candle structure to the left, or grab a put at this area. Actually, this candle you technically grab a put with how close you are, with the expectation of a retrace, right? And if we do break above and we're bullish above, then you would exit, right? So head into this upcoming week, I will be watching NVIDIA, watching chips overall to see if we can break through this top. And if we don't, there's definitely a great trade here. I might hang some stuff up here around the 200 area, right? Because that seems like a bridge too far right now. You look at these zones. This area, this 182 by 158 is a zone. Maybe we can get through that. Maybe we can't. But hanging something here around the 200s would seem as if it has to get through this zone. And then look at this candle structure here, raising up to about the 195, 196 area, get into that area, and also break up into the 200. That seems almost like a bridge too far. So that may actually be a good play. So I'll be watching for something like that. And also because the market is kind of undecided, right up against that brick wall, 12,500s by 12,600s on the MNQ, that we ran up into that area. And that's an area of turbulence and on multiple instruments, right? You look across that area, look back on the that time frame is an area of turbulence. So if that continues, then we're going to sort of matriculate back to the downside. So I definitely want to keep an eye on that. And if that's going to happen, but that's what I'll be watching for on NVIDIA. You may have different information. I'm just looking at the technicals right now, right? And I do believe someone mentioned that Nancy Pelosi's husband bought a crap ton of NVIDIA. I believe that's the company he bought, and I think that he did it in expectation of Congress passing new chip legislation that could greatly benefit chip companies, right? So don't know when that's going to pass, but that's a thesis for you. So you could dig into that to see the details, but that's something you may want to keep an eye on. Microsoft, nice little pop here and pull back. It just doesn't, let's see, 260. I've got nothing here. Nice pullback. That's strong. I'll wait to sort of see what Monday looks like on Microsoft. Earnings are the 26th of July, so that premium is going to be pretty gnarly this week. So be careful. But I'll be watching this to see if we can sort of get above this 265-ish area and get a nice little squeeze. Or we continue down. So we tap the pop blue here, and will we sell below that line and go lower? That would be a question to ask on Microsoft. But the extension to the downside is potentially 255, maybe. Yeah, about 255. We'll have to see how this plays out. To the upside, maybe you stay up to the 267. Something to keep an eye on there. So we have to see. AAPL. So Apple's off to the races. We did mention to watch out for these 150s, that we thought that could be an area that there could be potential struggles there. And there were, right? We touched it on the 15th. On the 18th, what do? We pull back strong. Next day, 19th, got a buy. We have continuation to the upside. And we have a slight pullback from Friday. So heading into an earnings week, I would sort of stay away because it could get super volatile. So we have to see, though, if we do see a continuation to the upside. And this is something else to think about, right? Do we see a continuation to the upside headed into earnings for some of these tickers, and then they just sell off once that earnings juice leaves them? That's something to watch out for. Being that things are open back up as far as COVID, like malls are open, people are moving freely. Apple should sort of be making money again on selling accessories and services, which is one of their main income drivers. So they should be okay there because things aren't shut down right now. They should have made pretty good money. So we'll see what that earnings report says, but that's what I'll be watching for on Apple. Nice push above the pivot here. And the next target will be this 158.60-ish area. We have to see if we do get that. That's interesting here. But going to move on. Yeah. Okie dokie. Head on over to Meta. Meta, weaker than its compatriots, headed into earnings. Not necessarily a good sign. I believe someone mentioned some challenges they were having with ad revenue, right? So that's interesting. So we're below the 173 line. Could open up the 161s. If we regain the 173s, keep an eye open for the 178s, maybe even the 184s. Definitely something to keep an eye on Meta. Okay, jump on over to Tesla. Tesla being Tesla. Um, nice push here on the 21st, 22nd. They try to get us good continuation. But what we're watching for is this, primarily on Tesla. The 780s have been an area that tested here, sold, tested here, sold. And now we sort of pushed up through that area. Watch for potential back tests of the 780s. As long as we're above that area, I think we could bid higher. But just because we were in that area for quite some time, we couldn't get over the 780s. I would keep an eye on that on Tesla to see if we back test that area and get a squeeze, or if we yeah, that'll be interesting to see if we pull back here and we buy back up with a squeeze. So let's wait to see sort of how this plays out. Elon pulled some interesting things where he was mentioning that I believe someone mentioned that he was using the transfer of Bitcoin into fiat currency or I say just fiat, I don't say fiat currency, into fiat as positive cash flow for the company. And that's a detailed thing. You have to dig into the details to figure that out. But watching this level, we'll see what we have next. Above the 780s, we have 819. Above that, we have 857. And above that, we have the 930s. So this will be interesting to watch. Personally, I'd love a sort of a back test here, but if we continue to buy up, I'll be watching to see what the buyers do with the 850s. So that'll be interesting on Tesla. You get the SPY rejection here. The areas, pivot area, pull back. And sort of a close around 395. So I'll watch out for what's this area here? 398. So we had to see if this sort of buys back up on Monday, right? Even though we had a strong pullback on Friday, does this buy back up on Monday? So that'd be something interesting to watch here on SPY. Okay. If you like this video, please don't hesitate to go to our YouTube channel, Power of Pivots, and subscribe, where you can look forward to receiving more content from me and more content from Elisa as she discusses how she utilizes her Power of Pivot strategy and software to find great pre-market, intraday, and post-market entries. Thank you so much for your time. Remember, you're just one trade away. And when I say one trade away, that doesn't mean one trade is going to make you, $30 million. What it means is that you're one trade away from learning the process, right? Your process of how you can go into this market and pull out value, pull out, money for yourself. That's, whatever your measuring stick is, you want to get the process. So you're one trade away from having a process and a system that nets you incredible rewards. Thank you so much for your time. And remember, you're just one trade away.